You ever find yourself having a difficult time making decisions and become frustrated with the results that it brings?
In this episode of Manifestation Mindset, we will be talking about the importance of making decisions and what you can do in order to experience different results in your life.
Welcome everybody to Manifestation Mindset, where you will learn tips on developing the mindset of manifesting, overcoming emotional challenges, and breaking through the limitations that keep you stuck so you can create the life that you truly love. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez, and we are live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And if you are new to the show, make sure you hit the subscribe button and subscribe to our show. And if you like the videos, give us a thumbs up. And also remember to click the bell icon so you can be notified of when we're live.
Today, we're talking about decision. And decision is a really important concept that we have picked up on over the last few years, that we want to share that information to you and realize, how making decisions in our lives really plays a big role in the results and the experiences that we come across throughout our whole entire life.
Yeah, and the whole concept of decision reminds me of Bob Proctor. He has a segment on decision, and he has this quirky little song, and it's called Decision. You want to sing it for us? Sing it for us, Aaron.
But it was like one of those 1980s audio cassettes, and there was like just someone singing the Decision song. It was like, Decision, Decision. And it was funny because we just kept singing it all the time because it seemed funny to us. But the song would stick in our heads because we make decisions constantly in our life. And
every single day.
Every single day we're making a decision. We make a decision to get out of bed. We make a decision to do our chores. We make a decision on what we're doing in our work and our environment, who we're going to hang out with, what we're deciding, what we're going to say. And some things we do this consciously, and some we do unconsciously. And there's an energy behind really making decisions. And one of the biggest questions is, are you making your own decisions? Or are you allowing other people to decide for you?
So the bottom line is that we are in control of our own lives. No one else is in control of our life. So that's why it's up to us to make our own decisions. And if you're looking to make a decision, I see a lot of people ask others, "What do you think I should do?" Or they'll ask that question, and it's like, well, what do you love? Like, what, I get that all the time from people, and they'll ask me, like, what do you think I should do? I'm like, well, how do you feel about it? Have you looked at everything, like the pros and cons of the situation? Or if they're buying something, like, look at the pros and cons, and it's up to you to decide. Like, but then they hand over like their control to someone else. Like, well, I think you should do this. But usually when someone will ask me that, I'll let them know, like, well, what do you like? What is it that really calls your attention to make, either the yes or no decision. So it's really, up to the person who's in control. And a lot of people sometimes want to tell people what to do. Like, well, I think you should do this. And it's, they're really like putting in their 2 cents. But, sometimes people are used to that though.
Yeah. And where does this start from? It starts from a very young age, and it's important that we help kids to learn to make their own decisions. Whether it's what do you want to eat, what do you want for Christmas, what do you want to do today. And a lot of the times, parents are the ones that are deciding for the children. And so what happens is the child's grown up and thinking, well, I don't have to make any decisions. Mom and dad make the decisions for me, and they carry that into their teenage years, into their 20s, into their 30s, and I noticed this a few years back that there was times where, I would make decisions, and we all make decisions, but a lot of my decisions, I would base them off of what other people would think. What do you think, like you mentioned, what do you think I should do in this situation? And get somebody's advice before I would make this decision to either do something or to not. And it was based on what other people would think. And there was some good decisions and some great advice, I guess, from other people, but other times, a lot of those opinions and advice probably wasn't the best interest for me. It might have been for the person giving it to me because they just wanted to help out. But what I realized over time was, what it wasn't something that I truly wanted to do more other than try to please others. I realized that what I was doing didn't really give me satisfaction in the long term until I learned to start making my own decisions. This is what I want to do. This is the career that I want to work in. These are the people that I want to surround myself with. These are the things that I want to do today. Is you learn to start making, your own decision. You start small and just learn deciding, what am I going to do? Because one of the biggest things is a lot of people run in this concept called indecision, where you're on the fence of deciding, should I do this or should I do that? And you might ponder on that idea for a whole entire day, hours, maybe even weeks, and never really pull the trigger on anything because you haven't made a decision to do that. But what's interesting is a lot of times in that indecision is because we may not be sure of what the result is going to be, and the worry factors start to kick in. What if this happens? And the worst case scenarios can come to your mind, and so there's a little bit of a fear to decide on something.
Because it could be the fear of like you mentioned earlier, what people are going to think, what they're going to say, or the reaction of some people, and that's why it's important to just make the right decision for you, or whatever decision you're going to make it for you, not for anyone else. Because then if you're making a decision based on what someone else thinks or says, now you're doing it because they think you should do it, not because you necessarily want to do that. And that could be in a lot of things. And some people base their careers on what other people think, or what they think you should do, but then they're unhappy. Or they think that you should get married because it's the right timing, but then you don't really feel it on the inside. You do it anyway, and then you end up getting divorced. There's so many different factors when it comes to decision making, but the bottom line is you're in control of your decisions. And it's like, if you want some advice from people, go ahead and ask, but still base that decision on what you feel is right for you.
Yeah. A friend of ours years ago taught us this concept, and he always talked about, counsel versus opinion. And people would ask, well, what's the difference between the two? He says, well, an opinion is based out of ignorance. It's people not knowing how to do something. It's like, okay, if you want to start a business, and you go to ask your friend or a relative that's never run a business before and ask them, what do you think I should do? How should I do this? If they have no experience in that, then they'll just give you what they might think would be in best interest for you, but it may not help you. Rather than going to somebody who has had experience, what we call counsel, and the counsel is someone who knows the steps you need to take. It may believe that you can do that, because a lot of times we may ask people for advice on something who's never had experience, and they may say, well, maybe you shouldn't do that, or they start to worry about what might happen in it because they have no idea. But there's someone who has experience will help kind of push you through. Yes, you can do that, but let me show you the steps it's going to take you to get there. And that's the difference between the two. So when you want to make a decision on something, you want to do something in your life, is you really want to, if you need advice or counsel from somebody, make sure it's someone who understands, or maybe has done what you want to do, and asking for the advice, what you think I should do in this situation. And that could be and if you want, again, we use starting a business as an example, but a lot of times it could be also, you want to get into a relationship. What do you think about this person? We have a lot of people that come to us that, what do you think about this person or this place I need to live in? And the one question we always ask them is like, well, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And they never learn to make their own decisions. They want us to tell them what's right for them. And we might think that it's right. I think you should do this. Mm-hmm. But it may not be what they truly want. And so we always want to ask you, like, what is it that you want to do?
So an example of decision making, when my daughter was younger in elementary school, she wanted to go to school, or actually she had this idea for this Halloween costume. And the Halloween costume, it had like a triangle hairdo.
Yeah.
And so I had made her like this cardboard cutout of like the shape, so she can comb her hair over it and create that triangle shape in her hair. And then I don't know if it was you that mentioned, hey, like that would be cool if you went for picture day like that. But then it got in her mind like, yeah, that would be cool. And she liked that idea, and she decided to go to a picture day that way with the triangle hairdo. And so that morning, I did her hair, I put hairspray and got the triangle hairdo, and that was based on a character from Steven Universe,
Yeah.
and she loved it. And I didn't spray paint it or anything; it was just like her natural hair color. But she went to school that way, and then all the kids were like, "Wow, that's so cool!" And they were trying to touch her hair, and she did get a little annoyed by the kids trying to touch her hair, but after the picture, they took the pictures. I think she took it down because the kids kept bugging her about it. But she liked that she was able to do that without us saying no, you can't do that, and like what are people gonna think? Like we didn't naysay anything. We if that's what she wanted, then I encouraged her to do what she wanted to do. And so then she went to school, took the pictures, and that was that. But she decided that that's what she wanted to do, and we, I helped her to create that for her.
Yeah.
But it was a decision that she chose to do. And most parents would probably be like, no way, like that's for Halloween, or you don't do that, and
You're not going to school.
you're not going to go to school looking like
yeah.
that. But it's most of the time when parents do that is because they're embarrassed or they're afraid of what people are going to say to them. Like, oh, did you see your child? And, things like that. But,
Or thinking that they might get bullied or teased at school.
Or thinking that. But it's all,
But you
it's
never
all
know.
your perception.
And she had a great experience. People enjoyed it. And, we've done this with her many different times when she wanted to dress up when she was younger. It's like we always encourage that. And because when you say they can't do that, what's happening? It's stifling creativity. And then later on, as we mentioned, we become these adults and realize, wow, I picked up on those same habits. I can't do this because what if people say something?
What are people going to think?
What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? And what's going to happen because of that? And a lot of ideas and dreams and visions die because of the fears that get in place into the subconscious mind, rather than when you learn to be creative and realize that all the experiences that we have in our life are based on our decisions, our choices that we make. And so if there's an area in your life right now that you're not really satisfied with, whether it's in your career, in your relationships, in your health, in your time, money, freedom areas, is think about what decisions or what kind of things have I done over the last few weeks, months, even years that have led me to this point. And it's not an exercise to say what I did wrong or beat yourself up, but it's just to be aware. Be aware of these are the decisions that I made. I chose to do this or I chose not to do that. Either way, it's a decision. And you're going to get a result from that. And so take a look of what decisions have you made and then identify those and learn to make a decision on wanting to change that. I'm going to decide to change the way I do things today. I'm going to, if I don't know how to do that, I'm going to decide to figure out how I'm going to do that. If you want to find careers, but you don't know what you want to work, decide that you at least want to change careers. And what we found is once you make a decision, there's an energy that shifts within you just to decide, and all of the resources that you need, ideas, they will tend to slowly come to you.
Yeah, because when you put it out there, when you decide, it's like you're telling the universe, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and so learn to make the decision. So a couple of things you can do. One is you're listening to this, and maybe there's some new or different decisions that you want to make, and you might feel like a little hesitation or fear. Just decide that I'm going to do this without worrying about how it's going to happen. Just say, do you really want to do this? And that's an honest question. Is when you say yes, I want to. It can't be like I kind of want to. I definitely do. When you make a firm decision, I'm going to do this. That's when the energy will start to shift. It's not say, oh, I'd like to do that, but you don't really decide mentally. And it's an internal process. It's not saying it to me or anybody else out in the world, hey, I'm going to do this. It's when you tell yourself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change, I'm going to make this decision, then that's when everything will start to shift and change for you. Yeah. So decide. So there's a lot of things you can decide to do, right? We can decide to be healthy. Today, I'm going to decide to be healthier than I was, even more healthy than I was yesterday or the day before.
Also, you can decide to be happy. Most people are looking for outside or things outside of them to decide whether they're going to be happy or not. Like, once I have this, I will be happy. But the key is to be happy now, with or without whatever it is that you want, because it all starts on the inside. It's an internal process. When you're, especially when you're thinking about happiness, it's like you have to be happy first with who you are and where you are, and then everything else would just follow. And I think a lot of people focus on what their circumstances are, and they're making their, like, causing misery for themselves by focusing on the things that they don't like, the things they don't want to see, and they're just creating this turmoil inside and making themselves miserable when they can decide, like, okay, this is the goal I have, and I'm going to be happy today, and put that excitement energy as if it's already
Mhm.
there, and then just be happy with where you are in this present time.
Yeah, because we are all creative beings. We have this free will. We have this energy within us that we can create whatever it is we set our mind to. And but we have to understand that first, because all anything that's ever created was created twice. Once it started up as an idea or a thought first, and then it turned into a physical manifestation. So anything you look at the technology that we are, being able to, record this and do it live here on YouTube and other platforms. This was an idea at one point in someone's mind. Almost 10 years ago, to do something like this would have cost a lot of money. You had to be like high production. It wasn't really a thing. But then someone figured out, well, how can we do this for more people? And now you see the technology is advanced because it started as an idea. And someone says, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to decide. And once that decision is made, then everything begins to move forward. So we decide to be happy. So if you find that there's something that's making you unhappy, identify what that is, and you decide, am I going to allow this to stay in, excuse me, excuse me, to stay in my life, or am I going to decide to change that? So maybe there's something you're watching on TV that you find unpleasant that's making you upset. Well, you made a decision to watch that, but you can also make a decision to turn it off and change the channel. Because what you focus on is where your attention goes, and that's what's going to dictate your thoughts. Now it's going to determine the feelings you're going to have, and then it's going to set the whole attitude and behavior, and you're going to take different actions based off of that. And that's where our results come from.
And most of that is habit from, we mentioned earlier, growing up, like what our parents taught us, what our parents did, and we're like a reflection of it. So if our parents grew up watching the news, watching movies that there was a lot of maybe violence or negativity, and we grew up like, oh yeah, that's what we used to watch all the time, and it's like a normal habit. But if you realize like what you're putting into your mind by the movies you watch, the music you listen to, the news that you watch on TV, there's so much negativity in that, and you're soaking it in, and you're focusing your time and energy into it. And when you look at everything, if you break it down and it's like, okay, does this bring me joy? Does this bring me happiness to be observing this? And then if the answer is no, then you can choose to watch something more uplifting, more happy, something that's going to bring you joy versus something that's going to make you angry or maybe even fearful and scared.
Mhm.
Because I know when I was growing up, the movies that we were allowed to watch, it didn't bring me joy or happiness. Maybe there was a few here and there, but a lot of them there's a lot of violence and a lot of fear based movies, and it's like, wow, like I can't believe that we used to even watch that, growing up as kids.
Yeah. And why this is an important factor. Napoleon Hill talks about this in his book Think and Grow Rich. I have it here in my hand right now. And he wrote a whole chapter on this called Decision. And he says that procrastination is the opposite of decision. Um, or the opposite of decision is a common enemy which practically every man must conquer. So how many of us or you have ever procrastinated on something? Or because what is procrastination? It's a form of indecision. You're not deciding to do something. So how do we antidote that? Well, we learn to make a decision. Once we make a decision, then we move forward. We get going. We take action on something. And I played around with this concept. I've been reading about decision, hearing other of our mentors talk about this and the importance of it. At the beginning, it was a great concept. It's saying, okay, I get it intellectually, but I didn't have so much of the experience of what they were really meaning about the energy behind that decision. So I decided to do my own experiment myself, and it's interesting because where I might have been indecisive or procrastinating on something, putting things off until something better comes, or until the money comes in, or until X, Y, or Z happens. And it was that moment says, you know what, this is what I really want to do. I'm going to decide I'm going to do that. And once I made that decision, it seemed like all the money or the resources showed up for me once I made that, rather than trying to wait. Because if I keep waiting for the resources, it's never going to show up because I'm still not deciding what I want to do. And so it's like, think about Christmas. Is
What do you want for
what do you
Christmas?
want for Christmas? And you're like, I don't know. And if you don't tell people what you want, you see this with kids, and they don't tell you, then it's like you're gonna have to make it up for yourself. And
You
I
get what you
think
get.
you get what you get. I think they might want this. This seems like a good idea. Maybe they'll be happy with it. Maybe they won't be. But how much more happy will that child be when they ask for what this is what I want and they receive it? How much more grateful and happy are they because of that? It's the same thing in our lives. The thing about every day is Christmas. Is whatever it is you want, you have to ask for it. You have to know what you want first, but then you need to ask for it, and that's asking in your own mind. You ask it to the universe, the higher power, that this is what I'm going to do, and decide I'm gonna achieve this in some way, shape, or form. And then once you do that, then resources will show up. If you're in business, the money will show up. You'll get more clients will tend to come in, and you'll earn the money. Sometimes it could just be a mysterious check that shows up in your mail. And we've had this happen a few times. But that's the power of decision. It's not just deciding and going and doing something. It's what stops us. And when you make that decision, procrastination takes a back seat, and we move forward and we start to experience the results that we really want in our life.
So, an example with procrastination, like sometimes, like when we were first together, sometimes you get a bill and you wouldn't pay it off right away.
Oh yeah,
And then you'd
bill
forget about it.
hesitation, right? How many of you
Yeah.
guys have done that?
You forget it. You put it aside. Oh, I'll get to it later, or I'll pay it later, and then it
Mhm.
sits there. Maybe it gets hidden by a book or another piece of paper or
Mhm.
whatever. You
Waiting
forget
for the
about
money
it.
to show up or something.
Or you have the money, but then you're procrastinating on paying it for whatever reason. It's like
Mhm.
holding on to that money, but then that again is like a form of lack. But when you procrastinate, what you're doing is like you're not taking care of what needs to be done. But then what can happen? You get a late bill,
Things
or
pile
like,
up.
yeah, you get another fee because you paid it late, or your phone gets disconnected because you forgot to pay it. Things pile up, and then now you don't have just one bill, but you have three or four,
Mhm.
and then if there's late fees or whatnot, but it's like you get the bill, you have the money, pay it, and like it doesn't make sense to hold on to the money because you have to pay it anyway. So why hold on to it and then risk the chance of a late fee for no reason?
Yeah, and the mindset behind that
Mm-hmm.
too. What I was understanding, what I was doing is like, okay, well, if I pay the bill, then I may not have enough left over for other things, food, gas, you name it. And so it's like, okay, you're clinging on to every
Mm-hmm.
last little penny that
That's
you
a
have,
lack
and
mentality.
what that does, you're choking off
Mm-hmm.
all the abundance that can come to you. Thinking like this is all I have, rather than there's plenty around you. That's why we talk about manifestation mindset. Everything starts in a mindset first. Once I understood that concept, I was like, okay, we'll just pay it. Even if my mind says there's not going to be enough afterwards, just pay it. And what I've experienced was there's always money. There's always more than enough afterwards. In fact, even more would start to come. And the amount of stress that it takes off of you
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, is just a reward in itself, because you know that okay, it's taken care of. You're going to do it regardless anyways. You got to pay your bills. But that's how learning to make different decisions. So you can see as we're talking here, decisions can go in so many different directions. We make tons of decisions every single day. We decide, hey, I'm going to get up out of bed. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to go to bed at this time. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to decide to do these things. You turn things into habits. Certain habits you do automatically because you've been doing them for so long. But when you learn to make decisions to make new habits, is you have to repeat them often and repeat them until you don't have to think about it so much, and then that becomes the new program, the new paradigm, and you you have to see different results because of that.
So when I first moved out when I was 21, my habit was as soon as I get the bill, I write the check out and I put it in the mail, send it off. I wouldn't wait for it to pile. It was like, okay, I got the bill right away, write it out, write the check out, send it off, because then I knew it was being taken care of. And, for me, that was like, okay, priority is pay the bills first, and then what's left over, I could either save it or, go have fun, do whatever. But for me, the bills were my priority to take care of. And that's how I did it for the longest time. And it worked for me.
Mhm.
And you're avoiding like any stress that comes with it, because the more you hang on to not paying the bills, you're in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, I have these bills I got to pay because I didn't pay them. But
Mhm.
once you write it out, or you pay the bill, let it go, you're sending it off. But then there's also room for more to come into your life. So think about it that way. For every dollar that I spend, I get 10, 20, 30 in return.
And it's just, again, it's a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're going through this, is start with little things, because making decisions is a habit. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, thinking you have to decide on so many things. Like, just focus on one thing at a time. Think about when you go into a restaurant and they give you a menu, and the menu has like 3 pages and the print's like this small, so they have like 50 different items, and you're trying to decide, what should I eat? There's like too many choices to go from. You're gonna go back to your 5 top choices most of the time. Usually it's the same thing over and over again, but the less amount of decisions you have to make, or it's overwhelming for you. Just decide on one thing. You might decide today, like, what's the one thing that will help me move me forward towards my goal today. You decide what that is, and that's another key thing, is you decide what is it you want. You decide you want it, and decide to take action on that, and whatever that's going to be for you. But decide that, and that's your first decision. Decide, yes, I want this. Or then, I don't know, yes, I want it. Okay, at least I got that off my mind. I want it. Then we'll figure it out. And then every single day, everything you do is always a decision. I'm going to decide to go this direction. I'm going to go into the other room. That's a decision you're going to make, right? And you just start slowly until you build that muscle. Because as Napoleon Hill talks about, is, successful people make decisions very quickly and change them very slowly, where unsuccessful people make decisions very slowly and they change them very rapidly. How many times have you made a decision, I'm going to do this, and then by a couple hours later or next day, I'm going to do something completely different and change the whole decision? That's what they're talking about. So the power of decision and learning to make decisions is very important for you in your life, for all of us.
And just remember that you're the one in control of your life. You're the one in control of your decisions.
So take control, make the decision to change your life today. Take control of your life, make the right decisions for you, and if you need guidance, ask the people that can give you the proper advice, but decide who that's going to be. And we hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode of Manifestation Mindset. We've been talking about making decisions. Well, hopefully you're starting to think about different decisions that you want to make today to make your life even better. And if you need help, you guys can find us at manifestationmindsetinstitute.com with any of our works and programs that we can help you with to change things in your life. And if you like today's episode, make sure that you give us a thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe. Subscribe to the channel so you know when we have a new video posted, and then click that little bell icon and get notified each time we have those videos posted.
And we go live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific. So we'll see you next week, and we hope you enjoyed the show.
All right. Bye, guys.